Hello Omnisphere users, Mike here, and in this video you will learn all the fundamentals of Omnisphere in only 30 minutes, plus some great bonus tips and tricks that you can use when making sounds for your music. Let's start the clock and begin learning right now. I will start by giving you 5 quick tips to kickstart your learning journey in Omnisphere. 1. Interface size. So this is how Omnisphere looks like when you first start it up, but if you have a big resolution screen like I do, you might want to zoom in. Well, you cannot drag it down here to scale it, but if you go into Utility, Magnify Window at the bottom here, you see here you can choose, let's go with 1.5, and it scales up like that. Tip 2. Update Omnisphere. So to make sure you are up to date, you can simply click the Spectrasonics logotype and it will show some information, and you can see I actually have updates available. If I click on Get Updates, it will open up the website where you download that. Click here again to go back. Tip 3, so this is really important. Multis, parts, and layers. You really need to learn the special workflow that Omnisphere works in. So first, multi. So the multi, if you click here, is actually all instruments you add, meaning all parts. So this is basically you can have up to 8 different instruments here. So you can have a bass here, a piano here, a synth lead here, and so on. And these correspond to these numbers here. So think of this as 8 different instruments, and those are parts. So multis is the overall arrangement of all instruments. Then these numbers correspond to the parts. And finally, each part can consist of up to 4 layers. As you can see here, layer A, B, C, and D. So, meaning if I click on layers here, now this is the only one active. If I play this, it's just a saw square, and then you can layer with B and add something else, which could be a synth or a sample. So let's just go ahead and add anything here, this one here, and now that is on B. So if I turn off A, this B layer is added now to this A layer, which goes into number 1. Like so, and of course you can set the levels here. And if you go to multi, you can see that the only thing that is moving here in volume is part 1, which is this here. So then you can add to the next one 2 here, a completely different instrument that is independent from this one. Tip 4. Plus minus workflow. And this is because Omnisphere is so rich and deep in features that if you want to dive into more detail, you simply click on any of these plus magnifying glasses here. Like here, if you click on this plus, it opens up a brand new part of the interface to control the oscillator with various effects and sound design tools. Click the minus, and then you go out to the main view again where you were. The filters, the same here. Go out, minus, and even for the patch browser here, click it up to get the full patch browser, and then you can exit out like that. And quick tip number 5, blue light means on. So you already saw me use this by clicking any of these little blue lights, means that it is actually turned on. And this is the case of the filter. So if I click here, it's turned on. So remember this little blue light right here. So if I go into the main view, you can see A and B is on. I can turn off A, and now it's gray. It's just B here. So that is a big part of the Omnisphere workflow. So this is on here, the solo button on. This light blue color means that it is on, even for these extra features like expression and so on. Alright, so those were my 5 quick tips to get started. Now let's move along to the main aspects of Omnisphere. Number 1, the great preset browser. So first you can see it right here to the left. This is a mini version of the preset browser, which you can use just by clicking this little arrow here to expand it and close it. But I prefer to use the big preset browser, which you can get to if you click this plus sign here to open up the full preset browser, or simply by clicking when you are on part 1, instrument 1, click here and you open it up right there as well. And a really important aspect is if this is turned blue, so this is on, this number 1 part is what you are editing, then the sound will change on part 1 when you change the preset. So make sure this is an easy rookie mistake that you are trying to, let's say you want to add here, but you forgot to change here, up here, the part number which you're editing, so that you can accidentally like switch presets here. And also, this is the part, but you can also access, if you click multi-browser presets, and this will actually load up several parts or instruments up here, so you can actually load and save multis as well. But the main aspect is still the same. And if we go back here, if you click here on the preset, you have the categories of sounds, then you have the types. So if you go to pads, you can see various types of pads, genre and complexity. So my favorite is actually the type, and you can also right click and change this to model, author, version, and so on. But you really have to learn how to dive deeper. So start by choosing the type of sound, and then you dial things down. So epic synths, and you already have 3 here. If you have everything on all, then you will have so many sounds to go through here. Another thing you can do is add a rating here, so you can actually see if you sort on your ratings, and then your top sounds, your favorite sounds are up here. You can also choose shuffle to shuffle the sounds so that they are not only in alphabetical order, and so on. So really learn how to use this preset browser. Go from the left category and then dive deeper to filter things down. Well, let's move along to the main view. So let's in fact close this out. So the main view is really important because here is where you can control the overall sound of any part or instrument you are working on. So it will apply to all these different layers of the sound. Very important. So you can have a master filter that controls all A, B, C, and D, and so on. So if I use this controls, it adds a filter to both A and B. And it's the same with the solo, pitch, bend, and so on. And you can even choose to control the signal path as shared. So now if I go, you can see these are yellow. Now the envelopes and filters and amps and things here are actually shared. So if I add a filter here, it is actually the same filter on part B as well, because they are shared. If you have it on normal, then you can have a different filter on A from B and so on. So that is a very important aspect. But you can also set the gain, number of voices, octaves. If I set this on 1 octave above, both of these are transposed. But if I set it on the parts, only that part is changed. So the main view controls all the layers, the aspects here. 3 layers view. So while main view controls all these layers, you will probably do most of the sound design per layer. So if you click on A here, this is now activated. Here is where you do most of the work, because you can change the sound, the oscillator or waveform sample here. So if I change that one, that is the overall sound. You can do synth here and just switch between sample and synth, and then left click to open up the browser. You see you have so many different waveforms, synth waveforms, and then you can do sound design on them. Here is the oscillator section. You can do the filter section. Choose a filter type. and then dial in, of course, the cutoff, resonance, and so on. And then you have the envelopes, which is different. You have to switch between amp envelope, filter envelope, and then you even have mod envelopes that you can route to control any parameter. So in the layers view, you do the main sound design and basically choose what sound you want to have. You even have the modulation matrix, again with the plus minus workflow. You can control, so the LFO changes, for example, the filter cutoff. Let's see, and then you turn on the filter, of course. And now that controls, now the LFO1 here controls the filter here. And that is the modulation. Let's turn it off for now. So the layers view is the oscillator, the filters, the envelopes, the modulation, the LFOs. Basically the main aspects of a synthesizer, even though you can use them also on samples. And this is one of the most powerful things about Omnisphere, is that it is an incredibly deep synth engine, but it works with sound sources, wave files, and samples. You can even go into, when you select sample here in oscillator, left click here, user audio, just drag from your Finder or file system view, and then drag in the wave file here, and you will be able to work with your own audio recordings as well. Okay, so those are the main aspects of the layers view. I mean, you have another aspect is, if you click on main and then layers, if you have several layers activated with several waveforms or synths, you can see here, then you get the levels here. So you can actually mix the parts faster here. Or you can do this, if you click on A, you can see them down here, turn them on and off. And then the levels, that, since those are the most important features. Another very important feature in the layers view is, of course, the pitch. So you can transpose this an octave down, for example, 12 semitones. So that layer is now an octave down. You can fine adjust the tuning. You can even automate this if you want to. And even course to do slides and so on. Okay, so those are the main interface overviews here in the layer view. Then let's move on to multi-view. If you click on multi, so the most important thing here is the mixer. Now we are only working with instrument 1, part 1. So what can you do here? Well, you can add effects. So send effects, just like you do in your DAW, you can add effects. And 2 effects are already routed. A AUX1, which is a reverb, and then a delay, which means you can simply add some reverb or add some delay, or you go into the FX rack and then change whatever you want to have on these send effect routes. You can even have up to 4 effects here per send, so you can send to several effects in a chain. Then you have the live view, which we will not go into because it's basically for live playing. And then the stack mode. This is one of the more powerful features because, remember, this is instrument. Instrument 1, 2, 3, and so on. And every instrument can have 4 layers. But if you click on the stack mode, you can actually use the entire instrument chain here as layers, as a stack, meaning that instrument 1 is now 3 layers. So this is instrument 1. And this one is only 1 layer. Let's activate another one just for the sake of it. Let's use whatever, this one. Now, when I play with the stack mode on, you will actually stack instrument 1 and 2. So all these layers and sound design settings will be played at once. If I hit C now. Wow, super cool, right? So if you don't want to use that, how do you actually access the next instrument? Well, you have to go into your DAW and set up multiple instrument outputs so you can control this one. Or if you see this, the MIDI channel 1 corresponds to the first instrument, the MIDI channel 2 is the second. Now it's different in different DAWs, but basically you need to set it so that it is a multi-instrument that you use Omnisphere for, so you can map out different channels and parts. But I will show that in another video because that's more advanced. Okay, so multi-views is basically setting the mixer, so you can control this. So in stack mode, you can actually set. So let's say you want to have that lower and pan to the left, want some reverb on that, but not on this one. You want delay on this one, pan slightly to the right, and now you have. Right? Bonus tip, if you hold down the command key, at least on Mac, and then click, or the option key. No, the command key, and then left click here, it will go back to the default setting, I think. Or just click, right click and reset to default value. Like that. Alright, so that is the multis view. You have the mixer, you have the effects for the send effects, stack mode, and let's skip live mode for now. Alright, let's turn off stack mode, by the way, so we are working in here again. Now, 5, the effects rack. So I really love the effects rack in Omnisphere because let's face it, here you actually have, and this is so powerful, in instrument 1, you have effect A, B, C, and D, meaning an entire rack with 4 effects for layer A, B, C, and D. Each one have an independent chain. So I can put on A, let's say, a tube limiter. That will only affect layer A. And then I can put on, let's say, delay here on layer B. That is only sent to layer B. And then I have common, which is sent to all these 4 layers. So I put, let's say, some filter on everything. And I even have a send rack here, so that I can actually send from the individual layers to a certain AUX send effect chain. So now I have added a chorus echo here on the AUX. It doesn't do anything. I need to push this return up, but now it doesn't add anything. But if I go into, click here on the B, then I can, so these have a delay on it right now, but now it's no delay. Now I can send to AUX send. So this B layer will not only have these insert effects here, but also can send. Delay? No delay, which is this delay here. So now I can actually use send per layer. If I go to A, send that one. Well, how much you add is this slider here, or the C one, and so on. And of course, you can have not only that, but you can have the common effect. So individual effect chain per layer, shared effect chain of all layers, and send effects that you can dial in per layer. Now you are starting to realize, I hope, the power of the effects rack. And of course, the effects racks are independent for each instrument, as are all settings here. So if I click on the next one here, it's a completely different effects chain. So that is marvelous. You can do so much. Imagine this when you use it in stack mode. Different sound sources, WAV files, sound design, and different effects racks, and different mixer settings on the whole multi-part. Alright, so let's move on to the next part, which is the Arpeggiator, also one of my favorite aspects in Omnisphere. Let's use this one here. So now we are only using the C layer on instrument or part 1, so I can play this, which is a Juno 60 sub. Okay, Now let's go ahead, go to the arpeggiator. It's turned off. You can turn it on by this blue light here or this blue light on button here. So let's turn it on, and if I hold the note now, it plays an arpeggio. And the arpeggiator is so powerful because you can first set the sequence, how many notes in the sequence. So let's put it on 16th notes, and let's use let's say every other note, right, like that. Also the dynamics per note, so you can have it go down and then up in volume. Set this slider so the arpeggiator controls the velocity, right? If you're playing, let's say, let's use this sound as, and by the way, the arpeggiator controls all layers at the same time, so it's basically on the main. Okay, so now you can also control, let's say you want to play it as a chord. So if I hold down a chord, it will trigger all notes here as a chord. Or hold down a chord and go up and down on each note. And all these various settings on how the notes are played as you hold them down. My favorite part of using the arpeggiator is probably like a pulse. So I just hold down a note like a pulse, like that. Whoops. And you can also set the speed, so you can increase this to 30 seconds. Start doing some changes while you hold the note, just to change it. You can also control the length. This controls basically like an amp envelope. So if I reduce this, the notes will be shorter and more staccato, like that. You can even introduce some swing so that they are not playing in perfect timing to the grid. But here's a really cool thing. You can load and save arpeggiator presets, so which controls every aspect in the arpeggiator. Click here and go to, let's say, arps, divided blips, and you can see so many things here. And what are these settings? Well, if you go back to the blank setting here, and then let's make here. Now, this is a setting here. Note on or off is this button. The velocity or dynamics is here. But here you can add some cool aspects. So you can transpose a note up or down. So if I hold down a C, or C here, these are both C notes. But if I transpose it up, let's say 3 seminotes, then this will always be 3 seminotes above what key I hold. And this could be a cool way to do, like, let's say, an octave jump like that. You can do slides. You can set the speed of the slide, and you can do chord voicings if you hold down chords. This is if you hold down chords, by the way. Low and high. Step dividers. Let's do 3. And let's see. Step divider. You can do so many cool effects per beat in the arpeggiator. So I love that feature as well. But again, go ahead and just try out various presets right here. Click here to load them up. And you can also initialize the arpeggiator right here. But I have actually created some presets myself. So 4/4 pulses, 16th note triplets. And now, okay, so it's just one note, but it will do 16th note triplets. Let's do 6/8 pulses. I mean, you can create your own presets and then save arpeggiator presets right here as well. Alright, so the final part I will show you in Omnisphere is the orb. Probably one of the more powerful features that is neglected. Because what is the orb? Well, it can add crazy modulation and automation, either in an automated way or by controlling a certain aspect of your choice. If you turn it on, it doesn't do anything. As you can hear, nothing changes because you need to introduce movement. So you simply click record and then drag this around and then you stop. This is 1 bar recording. Turn it off. So now it's on. And let's do another one. Then you click dice, and every time you click dice, it will randomize what underlying sound design parameters changes by the orb. So click again. Click again. Depth you can increase. Again. And you really listen carefully. Okay, again. Something different changes, but you can also go into any of these layers, click on modulation, and here is the modulation matrix. Very, very, very powerful. Click on it. Choose what source is the modulation coming from, the orb, and then set the orb to control, let's say the pitch fine on this. Or let's do pitch coarse, so to make sure it's heard, maximum setting. Okay, so we are on A now, it's not even on. Like that. You know? Mute it. Okay, so you can do crazy things with the orb, but I actually like it most for just adding those random features. So let's turn that off. Go to the orb, dice. Can add some subtle movement. Wow, really powerful. So those are, in my opinion, the main aspects and fundamentals of Omnisphere. The quick tips you learn, now you learn the preset browser, how it works, main view, layer, main view is here, the layers view here, the multis view with the mixer and the stack mode, and the multis effects aux sends, the FX rack, which of course is also different because you can have an entirely different FX rack per layer, A, B, C, and D, shared for all 4 layers, plus an aux send that you can choose per layer in the FX rack. So go to A, send to this chain here. You learned about the Arpeggiator, where you can control the notes on and off, how much the dynamics is, the speed of the arpeggio, the length, which is shortening the notes, the playing style of the arpeggiator, even introduce special aspects and effects per beat in the arpeggiator, and the orb to introduce movement and modulation into the sound automatically and random here with the dice button. Alright, so since we have some time left, I'm going to show you one final thing, which is the utility menu. Because when you're working with any part here, let's say you want to start over, you can click on part 1, go to utility, or right click here to get this menu, and you can initialize multi, which means you will initialize every part. You can initialize the patch, which is this one. If I click on that, it will warn me. And then it will go back to this default sound on part 1. Part 2 is still active. So, and then you can also, if you work on a layer here, let's say you are not satisfied, you've done lots of settings, you want to go back to the default setting, well, you can initialize that layer if that is active. Now only this layer is initialized, and this might be an entirely different sound on this layer, and so on. So you work on a layer per layer basis. So remember the utility menu. Be careful, however, because you might accidentally initialize the entire multi or initialize the part when you only want to initialize the layer. You can also copy, for example, this layer A, copy layer to C, click on C, paste layer. if you want to do some testing, like I want to test some things, but I'm not sure. Well, work on A, copy to C, and then start working on C with crazy sound design. If you're not happy, you can always go back to A because you started with a copy. Congratulations, my friend! You have now learned the fundamentals of Omnisphere in 30 minutes. I want to finish by kindly asking you to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell, and I will see you in the next video.